Biopsychology. Biopsychology has different names. It can be recognized as a behavioral neuroscience, physiological psychology, but also biopsychology. And what psychologists do in this branch of psychology, they analyze how brain, especially neurotransmitters and other aspects of our biology, influences our behavior, thoughts, and feeling. So this field would measure the aspect of neurotransmitters in the brain, how they carry information between neurons, and they enable chemical reactions. And why this study is important, it's because now we know that body and brain and vice versa, they do communicate, and for instance, the studies of dopamine, neurotransmitter dopamine, enabled us to recognize how to support people with schizophrenia and Parkinson, because we know that if people experience increase or decrease of dopamine, they can either suffer with schizophrenia or with Parkinson. So that has a huge implications in pharmacology, and that seemed to help a lot of people, since we know that is the case. However, from Islamic perspective, we also now know that neurotransmitters they also exist in the center of spiritual knowing, or spiritual wisdom, or spiritual intelligence, which is heart, in Arabic qalb. And how we call those neurotransmitters, we call them neurocardiology science, and how we study those neurotransmitters is in neurocardiology science. So this nervous system of the heart is recognized as a 400,000 neurons surrounded our heart, physical heart, right? And they are responsible also for processing informations. However, it is a bit different to body and mind, because what happens is they involve also brain. So there is a pathway, if you like, at this 400,000 neurons in the heart, which communicate with brain. That's why the heart can be also described as the little brain. So this is that moment when we try to figure out which decision to make. When we say, "Oh, my mind says something else, and my heart tells me something or the other." So this is where it's actually coming from. It's actually called science right now, and we recognize that those two organs, human organs, which is heart and the brain, they actually communicate. And they also recognized for its influence on the memory, but also the heart. So the intelligence can be recognized for the heart intelligence, but also for the mind intelligence. It goes as far as back as to Aristotle, who thought that our thinking and feeling are actually starting from the heart. Other Greek thinkers, such as, I don't know, Plato, they suggested that the brain and thoughts are where the mind is, and at that time the heart of intelligence, the heart of the place of the mind, the center of the mind was in the heart. But also the soul. That's where we go. That's where we have the name psychology, because psyche as a soul was the pre-19th century phenomena, was well known for the center of psychology. The spirit and the heart were well-known centers for the psychology as we know it today. So it's only nowadays when we have this advanced tools and technology, and because of them we can examine brain, and we understood the intricacies, the roots, and the fields, and to the smallest point of neurotransmitters, the whole chemistry of how brain works and communicates with body. But the truth of the matter is that the philosophers, they were always thinking about it, and that was known as a body-mind dilemma. Islamic psychologists, they were not different. They also took that challenge up, and they wanted to understand that connection, mind and body, and they couldn't help but themselves, they couldn't help but think about it from a metaphysical point of view. Yes, they took into consideration control of human behavior and thoughts, but at the same time, they've seen Galp, meaning the spiritual heart, as the center of the wisdom. That also goes back to Quran, because Quran recognizes that we've been given eyes to see, ears to hear, but also heart to understand. So this is the power. This is me paraphrasing Quran, but basically, what we are being said as a believers is that your heart has a potential to gain wisdom, to understand, to be logical, and logical from the perspective of God's revelations, logical from the perspective of recognizing Allah's blessings, and getting closer to him, drawing closer to him, creating that strong alliance. And probably that's why Ghazali, he spoke about Galp al-Latifa and Alima al-Latifa, which is equivalent of interpersonal and cognitive intelligences, right? So these were to enable person to orient themselves in relationships, but also relationship with God. So they would enable them to connect any scientific discovery or any interpersonal discovery with God directly. And Alima al-Latifa is the synonym for interpersonal intelligence, allowing person to self-growth. But all of those, they are centered sort of in the heart. That was the position. That was position of Al-Ghazali, one of the greatest Islamic psychologists and scholars of the times. I hope that was useful. Plenty points for contemplation. Don't forget to sign to my YouTube channel, AJS Therapy. I will see you in